I'm way more open about my faith and worldview than probably any other conservative talk show host. In fact, when Rush was around and I was guest hosting for Rush, he told me it could potentially cause me problems with radio stations picking me up. And in fact, he had to intervene personally for me with his radio bosses. Yeah, there were radio bosses there who didn't like me talking about those issues on the radio. There are still a lot of program directors who don't like it when I talk about those issues on the radio. But I do because it's who I am. It kind of, my faith kind of defines me. But I know because I talk about faith and going to seminary and stuff like that on the radio, I get inundated probably more than anyone else in radio with a question. Is this the end? Are these the end times? Is Jesus coming back? And the answer, my friends, that's blowing in the wind is I have no idea. Are we in the end times? Well, theologically, we've been in the end times since the ascension. Once the resurrection happened and Christ ascended into heaven, we've been technically in the end times. But there are birth pangs to the planet. You know, people hear about earthquakes way more now, volcanoes way more now. And scientists and geologists said there actually aren't more of them. It's just we hear about them more. Wars and rumors of wars, signs of the end times, all those sorts of things happen. And a lot of people want to read into a lot of things that may or may not be there and insist that perhaps here we are at the end. In Matthew 24, Jesus says, many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ, and they will lead many astray, and you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you not be alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is not yet, for nations will rise against nations and kingdoms against kingdoms, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All of these are but the beginning of the birth pangs. There is within Christian eschatology, there's divisions between amillennials, premillennials, postmillennials. Amillennials and premillennials have a lot in common. Postmillennials are kind of this they're a minority. I find a lot of their theology kind of odd. They think we're in this period of 1,000-year period from Revelation where Christ is in charge. It's kind of odd. And I am no expert in eschatology. I'll tell you, I'm millennial. With a lot of premillennial sympathies. I don't believe in the rapture. I think that's a misreading of Revelation that we'll all rise in heaven. That is a very dispensationalist belief among particularly Baptists. It is actually, despite being in the South where I am, you hear this thing about the rapture all the time. And a lot of people in the media talk about, well, Christians believe in the rapture. Actually, it's the minority position within Christendom, but it's very common conversation within the United States. I bring all this up to tell you a couple of things, and this is actually the point of this. I don't know, and you don't know either. I'm not going to regale you on what the Trinity is and means and explains it, because there are heresies abound when anybody tries to. I'll just say this, that Jesus said, even he, the Son, does not know when he, the Father, intends for the second coming to take place. And if Jesus himself could not tell the apostles when that day would come, I certainly can't, and you don't know either. Whenever there is a war in the Middle East, people start talking about the end times. You know, during the first Gulf War in 1990, when George H.W. Bush decided that Saddam Hussein needed to be thrown out of Kuwait, there were all sorts of apocalyptic existence end times. When the Shah of Iran was overthrown in the late 1970s, go back to Christian literature in the late 1970s when the Shah of Iran was overthrown by the Ayatollah Khomeini. And there were lots of publications with lots of articles. Is this a sign of the end times? Every time something happens in the Middle East. Now, I will tell you, I'm in the evangelical tradition that Israel, the nation state that exists now, is not what the Bible refers to as Israel. That Israel has largely become the church and God's people. I am in the minority of Reformed theological beliefs that I do think Romans 11 suggests that the Jewish people, There's something set apart for them. And frankly, I think the things of the world hate the things of God. And given how persecuted Jews are, they're still got to be tied to God in some way. I don't line up exactly with one particular group. My views are complicated. But this is very simple. This is a very simple conversation to have. Is this the end? No. We don't know when it is. Are we in the end times? Yes. We have been since the resurrection. So what would she do? What would we do? Live your life and don't worry about it. And that's the point of all of this. People want to know. It's kind of gossipy. Do you think this is the end times? What do you think? Is this prophecy fulfilled? I got no idea. What I can tell you is it's none of your concern. Your concern is to love the Lord with all your heart and love your neighbor. If the world falls apart tomorrow, there's nothing you can do about it. And this gets to the greater concern, is we in particular in this country and around the world, everyone wants to feel like they're in control. Actually, when I was talking about progressive mental health, I got an email from a listener who is a therapist. And she said, let me read you this. I'd like you to know that among liberals, from what I can see in my practice, they tend to have what we call an external focus of control versus an internal focus of control. External means that they believe they are powerless over everything and cannot change anything from themselves. They're victims. Internal focus of control means you believe you have some form of control over your life. That's so well said, and it's so true. And it's true of the people that I encounter on the left and the right, that so many people on the left just think that the world is out to get them and there's nothing they can do about it. They are not in control. They are victims. My friends, you're not a victim. It is your choice to view yourself as a victim. There are certainly real victims of crimes, and you, because the world's going against you in some capacity, doesn't mean you're a victim. And is the world coming to an end? Yeah, the world's coming to an end at some point. I don't know when that day is. Neither do you. Jesus Christ himself does not know that day. Only the Father knows, within the framework of the Trinity. So stop worrying about it. Dwelling on it is not healthy. Dwelling on it is not good for you. Dwelling on it actually can send you into a spiral of despair, because you're focusing on an external event you can't control that you believe ends badly, except it doesn't. I've read the end of the book. People like to focus on the Antichrist and Revelation. What is the mark of the beast? Who is the beast? Who is the Antichrist? What is going to happen? What does Revelation mean? Well, it's apocalyptic literature. It doesn't quite make literal sense. But what about the mark of the Christ? Everybody focuses on the mark of the beast. Where's the mark of the Christ? You're with him. He's chosen you. It's all going to work out fine. People are prone to despair. And in our present age, 24/7 news cycle, where if it bleeds, it leads, and the things that give you anxiety are the things that the media highlights because they keep you coming back for more to see if it's going to work itself out, you got to remember that everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. All is going according to plan. God has not abdicated his throne. He's still there. He's still in charge. I don't know why bad things happen. I mean, theologically, I understand it, that it's like God didn't give my wife cancer. We live in a fallen world. Disease is part of a fallen world. My wife's got cancer because we live in this fallen world. And Christ lived through this fallen world, was tortured, crucified, and died, and rose again from the dead. He didn't give himself a way out. We don't get a way out of it. We don't get a way out. There's no escape from it. But he loved us so much, he went through the world with us and didn't give himself an escape, and then conquer death so that we ultimately can get out of it once we've lived this life. You just gotta go with it. You gotta roll with the punches. You gotta live with it. You gotta stop being stressed out about what may or may not happen. The events you cannot control are events that should not bother you. And I know that's hard, and I've got to remind myself of that sometimes as well, that, you know what, Erickson, there's nothing you can do. My team and I, we sometimes get focused on growing my show, And sometimes they're like, why aren't you more upset about this? Why aren't you? Because there's nothing I can do about it. Why be upset about it? There's literally nothing I can do about this thing. It is out of my control. God's got a plan. I'll let him deal with it. Sometimes I got to remind myself of that. But oftentimes I find, and literally in the last 3 or 4 days, I've been inundated with people. What do you think? End times? Revelation? Second coming? I don't know. Yeah, end times theologically, yeah, but I mean, is it tomorrow? Probably not. Next week? Probably not. Next year? Probably not. Sometime in the next decade? Maybe. Sometime in the next 100 years? Yeah, very probably. But I don't know. These things tend to work in 2,000-year cycles, and we're near the end of the 2,000-year cycle, so probably sometime, maybe not within my lifetime, maybe within the lifetime of my child or my grandchild. Yeah, things, certainly there is a feeling in the air we should acknowledge. There is a feeling, and to be clear, studies of eschatology and books on eschatology are the only theological books written from the temperament and time of the person writing. Meaning, if you go back to the early 1900s, books on eschatology were all very, very positive that the world was all going to end in a happy place. And then World War I broke out, surprising everybody. And the eschatology became very dour. In the last 20, 30 years, eschatology has become very dour again. But we don't know. What I know is this. There's nothing I can do to stop time from moving on. There is nothing that I individually can do to shape the direction of the world. What I can do is love God and love my neighbor and seek the welfare of the city in which I live and pray for it. That's what I can control. So that's what I should do. And that's what you should do as well. Stop worrying about if the end of the world is here. Stop worrying about nuclear Armageddon. Stop worrying. Are you going to be fine? You're going to be fine. Will you be miserable? Maybe so. Life's not fair. Bad things can happen. But at the end of the day, all things work for the good of those called according to his purpose. Are you called according to his purpose? If you think you are, you probably are, and so it's going to work out. He's still on the throne. He hasn't abandoned us. It doesn't mean we're going to have an easy time, but he didn't have an easy time. He was nailed to a cross and killed. But he conquered death, so you can too. So calm down. Everything is going to work out. Is it the end times? Is the world about to come to an end? Probably not in the next week or the next year or even the next 10 years. So don't quit your job. Don't decide not to pay your bills. Live your life, love your neighbor,